all the unique characters,
I do let him bang. Yeah, I'm saying? Like, yeah, I'm a legend, man. I'm building my legacy.
all the stories and perspectives featured weekly.
I wasn't fully committed to that choke, and I kind of sunk into it, started squeezing tighter, and I kind of heard him gurgle a little bit. I was like, oh.
And all the combat sports you could ask for in the best state in the U.S.
Like I said, Ohio versus the world. It's going to happen for sure. Watch out.
It'll be cool, man. I'm not worried about it. I'm going to show them why the Ohio MMA scene is, in my opinion, one of the best MMA scenes in the country.
This is Forged in OH.
IO.
OH.
IO.
OH.
Ayo!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 122 of Forged in Ohio. My name is Jake Murren, and I'm the host of the podcast. It's always great to catch up with fighters on the show after they've gone on to do something great, and that certainly applies to this man. He first appeared on episode 102 of Forged in Ohio. He is now on a 5-fight win streak. He is now a 2-time amateur MMA champion. It's Chris the Grit Droege. Thanks for coming on the show, Chris, and welcome back to Forged in Ohio.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me back.
Of course, man. Thanks for coming back on the show. And let's break down that latest performance about a month ago at Cage Thunder 33. Are you happy with the way you performed that night?
I mean, absolutely. Like, one of the things that I always think about is like, especially since like turning the corner from wrestling to MMA was like not having this stress of like, I have to win, I have to do this, do that. And I was like, just trying to focus on the performance. Like if I'm doing well and it doesn't necessarily go my way, like especially if it's a decision, like, I can't do anything about that, but I can be happy with the way I performed if I just did everything I could. And I think that was a great example of it. I mean, like really got to showcase some things that I know everybody other than my team has not seen. Like we work on striking a lot. It's just I have that like the wrestling ability, and it's just you kind of take what you can get in a fight and try to get out of there as quick as you can. But it was really good to like showcase a completely different style and just show that like I'm growing as a fighter, which is important. Like you want to show growth and being able to adapt. Like there were some grappling exchanges, but I just primarily just did the exact opposite of what I always do. So it was cool. Like, yeah, I was really happy with it. Like win, lose, draw, whatever. Like I was able to look back on that and be like, yeah, I was really stoked about how I performed. And against a tough opponent. Like he was good. I mean, he is good. So it's like I'm happy with it.
So why were you more focused and dialed in on the performance rather than the result itself? What kind of changed going into this fight where that mindset was a little bit different?
Well, it wasn't necessarily like this fight. I would say probably like 2 or 3 fights in advance was probably when I started having this like real like mind shift. And it was just, I don't know, it was like talking with people and like, I mentioned briefly in my fight that like I coach at the college that I wrestled at. And, a lot of those guys, they kind of struggle with the same thing where it's like wrestling is so intense. It's like you want to win. And, especially with college, you only have 4 to 5 years to achieve your goal. So it's like limited and there's a lot of pressure on if you make it that way. So I know what that feels like because I put that on myself, and it's like an external weight that just is like crushing you. And when you kind of like relieve yourself of that, it's insane. The kind of, I don't know, like clarity you feel and like joy. Like practice isn't like something you have to win. It's like you can use it for what it actually is, like expanding and working on things. And everything isn't like life or death anymore. Like, did I do this extra workout or extra rep, or did I do this exactly right, eat exactly this, sleep exactly? Like, that's how a lot of wrestlers think. And because I was like helping these guys through it now that my wrestling career was over, but I was still like, I'm still competing. I started looking at it like more objectively, like okay, if I were to be talking to myself right now, like what kind of advice would I give? And that was a large part of it, was like breaking down the things that they were needing help with.
Hmm.
And then like just talking with my coaches, and yeah, and then I saw a sports psychologist as well. Like, and you know, I mean, it was like one of the best decisions I ever made. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of a lot that leads into it, but that's like really what it was. And it was starting, it's just crazy how when you get that mental roadblock out of the way, it's like you can just enjoy what you're doing instead of like putting pressure on it.
Yeah, that's really interesting to me because obviously we've seen your growth as a fighter inside the cage through your 7 fights. You talked about showing the striking in your latest performance at Cage Thunder 33, but that mental growth, it's not something we really see, but it's something you can tell by just talking to you. How important is it to just grow mentally as your skill set and game grows along with it?
I mean, yeah, like that goes in every like facet of life. Like, you're constantly going through these changes. Like, I'm sure that you felt this like going from like your high school age to like a college age, and like post college, like it all, like your mentality on things changes. Then like when you add competing into it, you start looking at things just differently. Or you would, at least you would hope, because if you're not having that like mental growth, then I feel like you're getting limited. And we worked with, when I was in college, we worked with this company called Wrestling Mindset, and I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. I thought it was good. They have a lot of things that like really help, but I just don't think we were doing either it enough or whatever, where it wasn't like getting through to a lot of my teammates. And like some of the things we were doing, I felt were kind of like, like not really like adequate for what we were trying to do. But I don't know, I'm kind of like rambling here, but like I think when we were using them, and like some of the guys were buying into it, some of them weren't. I was trying to buy in as much as I could. For whatever reason, it wasn't like clicking. And maybe it's just because I wasn't like as mature as I am now. And maybe because I have a different outlook on competing, being a coach and a competitor instead of just being a competitor. But I don't know. I realize like how much of competing is mental. And if it's a large majority of it, then you should spend a large majority of your time developing that, just like you would develop your physical and emotional skills, you know? So, man, it all goes together, everything works together in one. And fighting and competing in anything isn't just physical, there's certainly a mental aspect of it. If there wasn't, then people wouldn't like psych themselves up or have to calm themselves down or like whatever to compete, you know what I mean? But there is a mental aspect. People will deal with performance anxiety and all kinds of other stuff and excitement and all these things. And if you can't control your mind, your body, your vehicle isn't really good for anything.
Yeah, I love that perspective into just the mindset of competing. When you go on to, teach, I know you have seminars and things like that. How much, focus and emphasis do you put on the mental side of things compared to more the physical stuff?
So that's actually a really good question, because I try not to like harp on it with people in like in a top like for instance, like at practice, like
Mm.
if like after wrestling practice, like the coaches will sit down, kind of talk to everybody, especially the head coach, which I'm not, I'm an assistant coach, but they'll kind of like outline the week, blah 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 blah, and then they'll like open it up to all the other coaches, like give your feedback. And in a situation like that, like I really don't say much about the mental side, because I think it's so different for each person. However, this is something that does make me really happy. Like my athletes are like very, I don't know if it's like comfortable is the right word, or like they're very confident in the things that I have to say, because they'll like when they're going through it, like they like go out of their way to like either text me, come up to me at practice, whatever, and talk. And I'm there. Like I'm there to sit and talk. I know exactly what they're feeling. You know, I've experienced all that, especially in that room. Not many people can say like their college coach went through the same, literally everything that they went through, same school, same practices, basically. And yeah, like in that regard, when it's more one-on-one, then I like try to like harp on it. When we're doing these like clinics and these little seminars and stuff, like unless the coaches ask about it, then I'll say something. But if not, it's just really like trying to hammer technique. Like I don't try to like waste anybody's time in terms of like talking. I just am like, all right, this is like what our objective is today. I want to try to show you guys as much wrestling as I can. Like, let's let's just go. And then if somebody at the end were to ask about that, then I would break that down. But I think to maximize people's time, I don't want to like spend it on the mental and because that's not prevalent to everybody, but improving your skill set is prevalent to everybody. So I think like unless like when I did it at Riverside High School, which is like right down the road for me, um, one of the coaches had asked like briefly about like um I think it was like more about like really pushing yourself, like doing extra, and they were kind of explaining it like that. And that does take a lot of like mental stress on you, and it can add mental strain. Like either I have to do all this more, like I got to do all these more reps, or I'm not going to be a champion, or like I didn't do these reps, like did it, am I not going to be a champion? You know what I mean? So like I think we were kind of talking about that. Like if you do the extra work, just have confidence in it instead of letting it like be an extra barrier. But I didn't like dive like too deep into the mental side. And like half of those, like they were all like high school or younger. And there was a lot of kids that were younger than high school. So I went right over their head. Like my nephew was there and that was his first time ever wrestling and he's 9. Like if I tried to explain that to him, he doesn't know. Like he's not gonna like grasp that. He just was trying to learn wrestling. He thinks it's cool, so he's like, whatever. You know what I mean?
Going back to Cage Thunder 33 for a moment, you mentioned your opponent, Jacob Toth, and I feel like that fight was a long time coming. I know you had experience with him in a grappling match. Just how much did that familiarity help you, and what did the game plan look like going into the cage?
Yeah, I mean, um, for sure we had like some form of familiarity. Obviously, we competed at my gym. They run like cage grappling matches, and he beat me, he subbed me. And I was like, all right, like clearly this dude's got good jujitsu. Like I'm first of all, for a jujitsu match, I'm not looking at anybody. I'm not watching their film, tape, anything. Like just because it's like to me, that's a lot different than a fight. Like that's just good experience. And it's like if somebody has better grappling than me, like it is what it is. I can only spend a certain fixed amount on my grappling versus everything else. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm still wrestling. I'm still, boxing, doing all that stuff. So it's like if I lose in a grappling match, like yeah, it sucks. Like it doesn't feel great, but it's like what's more important is just getting those reps of competing and getting a feel for going through everything that you would normally go through in a fight in a sense. So with that and then yeah, like actually like after that we had talked about like training together, like possibly training together. And then like I had a fight fall through for BCM. My coach was trying to get fights. This one that came up, it was like 2 months out. I'm like, all right, cool. Like it is what it is. And then I obviously was like, okay, this kid's got good grappling. This is what he did. And then we kind of just developed a game plan in terms of like, what are we looking for? What maybe is he looking for? And then we just went with that. Like, I don't know how everybody else's camps break down like game plans, but like ours was very brief. It wasn't like I wasn't like watching and like figuring out every sequence and then planning this out. It's just like we talk about it. This is what we're gonna do, and then I just just do it. And then obviously, like, the best laid plans of mice and men often go awry. Like, if you can't just bank on, I'm going to do this, he's going to do this is how the fight's going to go. Like, you got to be prepared for anything. Like, so you go in there with an idea of like your A plan, and then you let everything else do the work. If you've done everything right and you've covered all your bases, like, you should feel comfortable fighting anywhere. And I feel like that's like the big jump between amateur and pro. Like, obviously I'm not a professional yet, but I feel like that's like the big jump. Like, guys who are taking professional fighting like really, really seriously, like, that's the difference. Like, they are comfortable at least everywhere, and they are like confident that they can win no matter where it goes. Versus like maybe amateur fighting, people are like, I'm a good wrestler, I'm a good whatever boxer, like jiu-jitsu guy, so I have to bank on getting it to that situation. That is my avenue to win versus like feeling more well-rounded.
There were several times during the fight where Jacob would kind of lay on the mat trying to get you to engage with him on the ground. And I know you're obviously a skilled grappler, have great jiu-jitsu yourself, have a lot of confidence in that realm. But how do you balance being confident in that area versus knowing that you did have the advantage on the feet?
Honestly, I don't really like think about those kinds of things in terms of like, I feel like it's important to have that, like, that confidence. But one big thing that I talk about with my boxing coach specifically is like not allowing ego to like hold you back, right? So like, I could easily be like, my grappling is just as good or my grappling is better, and like, that is an egotistical thing of just to, for whatever, like, just to try to prove that I'm better going head to head in his best area. But like, that wouldn't be smart if my coaches are telling me otherwise. If they were saying like engage, like, hey, like, look for a takedown, or like, hey, like, jump on him, like, then I would do it. But they weren't saying that, so I was just doing the stuff that they were saying. Like, I I think like now coaching myself, like, I have a much better understanding of like what coaches are trying to say to you. Obviously, as an athlete, like, anytime you compete, doesn't matter what sport it is, obviously, like, coaches are telling you to do something. And when you're just an athlete, you're like, yeah, but like, do they know what I'm trying to do or whatever? Like, you know what I mean? You always kind of have that in the back of your head. But when you start coaching, you notice like how you can see things in a different point of view. You know what I mean? Like, they look at it from like a third person point of view. So if they're telling me, if they're seeing something and they're saying it over and over, I'm just going to do that. And like, there's a really high likelihood that they're seeing something I'm not. So I'm just going to do what they were saying. So to answer that, like, when he was like pulling guard, like, they weren't saying like jump on him. They were like, back up, make him stand up. So I just did that. And I was like, okay, like, I'm like, the way my head coach DJ says is like, he wants me to be like, wants people to be like a video game. Like, he's playing the video game. He's telling you the controls, and you're the person in the game. He says punch, you punch. He says kick, you kick. Like, that's kind of like what he wants. And if you have confidence in your coaches, which I do, like, you just do what they say. Like, you know what I mean? Obviously, if I see something like the blinding glimpse of the obvious, like, I'm going to take it. You have to have fight instincts. But, for the most part, if they just say something, I'm just going to do it. Like, that's your commitment to being an athlete. Like, yes, your objective is to win and compete and, you know, accept the outcome, win or lose. But like, you're obligated to listen to your coaches. If they're taking their time to help you, like, you need to listen to what they're saying, because it's probably for your benefit. So that was a long-winded way of answering why I did not go into the grappling exchanges. So
What were the emotions like after the fight, after winning that Cage Thunder amateur middleweight title?
honestly, it was cool because like, it was just a good feel. Like, no, it's cool venue and everything. There was a lot of people that I did know there. Like, I I have trained with both the guys who fought before me. Marinosi and Lagoa. So like that was cool. You know, a lot of the guys who were like cornering other people I'm very familiar with. So it was like that was like the first time it felt like there was a ton of people that I knew or have trained with on top of like, you know, just the fans and your own team. So that was a cool feel. But like kind of going back to when I was talking with that sports psychologist, one of the best things that he said, and he got this from working with one of the Cavs players. I don't remember who he said it, but it's like no highs too high, no lows too lows, just keep the train rolling. And like I really had to like sit back and feel like think about that because it's like I don't know, like you can't like for instance, like if that were a closer fight and the decision were to go to him, but I had the same performance, like should I be upset and pissed off about that? Or should I be accepting of the outcome? And when you kind of like start looking at things like that, it it takes away that like crazy emotional response. Like if you lose and you're completely tied to winning and losing, like it's going to be a low low, and then obviously if you win, it's going to be a high high. Versus if you're just committed to doing the thing, going in there and fighting and or grappling or whatever and competing, then you can just experience it. And it's like there's no more of this. Like that's what makes it like unsteady and whatever for a fighter. Like I don't know exactly like what I'm trying to think of, but like it makes it very inconsistent is what I'm trying to say. Like you're up, you're down, you're up, you're down. Versus like if you are just accepting of everything you've done, you take your emotion out of it, it just it's like an even keel thing. So it wasn't like a crazy pop of emotion. It felt good. Like I was appreciative of it. But I'm trying to be better about like not having this like overwhelming sense of like like I'm the man or like or like if you lose you're like I suck and this and that. Like I don't know, you just kind of accept it and you're like, all right, that was cool. Like I appreciate that. I had an awesome time. Like that was a great competition. And that's what it was. So like it was cool. I mean, it's obviously nice to get that hardware and recognition, but if you live and die by that, like I feel like that's what impedes your development and growth. Cause like this isn't that's not like my goal. I really appreciate winning that title. I'm glad that Cage Thunder gave me that opportunity. I'm glad that Made Men gave it to me before that. Like, and I was very happy to win those, and both were against really tough opponents. But like, that's not what my overall goal is. And so it's just like those are those little tiny goals on the way, and it feels good to accomplish them, but it's not like my number one top goal. And I feel like that might be something that I would have more of an emotional connection to. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see as we go down the line.
Talking with Chris the Great Droege here on Forged in Ohio. So were there any differences between that first and second title win? Did one mean more to you or were they fairly similar?
I think that they're fairly similar. I think like the other one was way more hard fought because it was a like a razor thin fight. Like it was back and forth, and I mean, yeah, it was crazy. Like that was like it was like funny. Like that's when my coaches were like, "You earned your nickname." Like that was a gritty fight. Like that's what they were saying. Like you earned that, and it was a crazy experience. I don't know, maybe because it's like it was inside versus outside. Like that does have a little bit of a feeling change, I guess, because like when you're inside, like it seems like way more people are there. Like you've been to Chaparral's when there's a fight, like that's a small venue, so like the amount of people that were at the Bedland fight, if they were in Chaparral's, like it would feel like you're in a packed stadium just because it's so confined. And where we fought was at Mountaineer Casino in one of like the extra rooms, and it was pretty packed up. So it's like, in a way, I don't know, it just felt crazier because of like the circumstances. But after I kind of felt the same way, like I was just appreciative to do the competition and be in there and have these tough fights. Like, you know, I I just am truly grateful and happy to compete now instead of like being anxious about the outcome. So like that I feel like is like the big change. Both of those were like where I was starting to work on like just focusing on performance and focusing on like my like just being calm and all those things and just being in the flow of it. So like it would be hard to compare the two because like I kind of went in there with the same mindset versus like my say like my debut fight, like that was different because it's like that's the unknown, it's something completely different. Like you don't like so that was like a big pop of emotion. And I was still in that mind frame of like win, lose. That's the only thing that matters. Win, lose, win, lose. You know what I mean? So they were similar, but they were different in terms of like just the I don't want to say the difficulty because they were both like challenges. It was just like the one in West Virginia was like a drag 'em out fight. Like that was just it literally took everything that I had and he had. Like both of us at the end of the fight were like barely standing up. And it was just it was crazy in that regard versus like this last one that was like showcasing this new skill set where I'm like, yes, like I do this in practice all the time. Practice is a little different than competition. Now I know I can do this in an MMA setting, like in terms of like the boxing and ring control. So yeah, it was just I don't know. They were both cool, but they just different, but not one better than the other.
We've talked about your growth in many ways, but how much have you just grown in your 7 fights since making your debut in 2022? Or would you even recognize that version of yourself from 3 years ago when you did make that debut in the sport?
Yeah, like honestly, I think it would be completely different. Obviously, like if you get better, you think about that like with wrestling, like man, if I could go back, like when I was a senior versus a freshman in college, like we had talked about that on my last podcast episode. Like I went from winning 3 matches to being an All-American and 2-time qualifier and a Greco All-American. Like that's a pretty stark difference. So like yeah, like if you now were to wrestle like a prior self, like yeah, you would hope like you would destroy that
Mm-hmm.
person. And like I feel the same way with fighting just because you just skill acquisition, like the discrepancy in skill acquisition is crazy. Like I obviously like if you're at a good team, like they're not going to just let you get into a fight if you've never done anything other than this skill set you're coming from. Like if I went into an MMA fight, even if it's a debut and you have never worked on striking and the only thing you have is wrestling, like man, like that is not a great idea. You know what I mean? So, but my striking was very elementary and my jujitsu was be like blue belt level. You know what I mean? Like I had a very cursory understanding of submissions, which I did get a submission, but it's like the most basic one, like a rear naked choke. Like everybody knows how to do that, right? So yeah, I mean, I look back and it's like, yeah, there's a ton of growth. And I know like because we're talking about MMA, like and it's just on my MMA record, but that last fight was actually my 10th fight. I have 3 boxing matches too. And yeah, like from my first MMA fight, even in my first boxing match, like I think there was about a year and a half or like close to 2 years maybe. Like, dude, that would have been insane. Like, I think the boxer, like, only my boxing skill would have beat me with my MMA. Like, if that makes sense, what I'm saying. Like, so yeah, like, there's crazy growth in terms of that. And, the only way to know that is if you like compete because it's like easy to just be in practice and just do everything, but it's like to really see like how much you're getting better, you need to compete. And it's like that's what this sport is, man. There's no you are not a fighter. without competing. You know what I mean? Like you could train, you could be like whoever, let's just say like you could be Chuck Liddell's training partner your entire life. Like, yeah, you're probably a bad dude, but that doesn't make you a fighter because you haven't made that walk. Like that's where you like test yourself. That's what it really takes. Like it, and I'm not hating on people who don't fight. Like I don't want that to come off that way. It's totally cool to just train and get better at something that you're not going to compete in. Like I'm not being a hater in that terms. I'm just making the distinction of like competition makes you a fighter. If you don't compete, you are not a fighter. And without that competition, you don't know how good you are or how bad you are. You know what I mean? Like you need to like it's a reality check. That's what it is. So yeah, all from one fight to 10 fights, like you would hope that there's growth, which there was. You know, there was a ton of growth on my side. It's like two different people. And that's a testament to really working hard and not just working hard like I'm gonna hit 100 reps and do this and I'm gonna run 2 miles every day because it's like that stuff is good and that hard work is fine, but it doesn't move you forward if your problem is conditioning, you know, or not is not conditioning, I should say. Like don't I people shouldn't confuse like hard work with like focused uh like in I don't know, like intentional work, you know what I mean? Like if your problem is boxing, like you have really bad boxing, the way to fix that is not going and hitting the treadmill and running a mile as hard as you possibly can. Even though doing that is very difficult and tough, that doesn't like move you forward. The hard work is working on the stuff that you're not good at. You know what I mean? So that's where I think like a lot of my growth is coming to. Like you take your, it's like I said, you take your ego out of it. You put yourself in situations that are uncomfortable in training. And then when you do get into that situation in a fight, it's like that's where you show your growth because you're working on your weak areas. And then yeah, you I just think naturally like your strong suits just get better as well too from that.
I asked you this question in the cage immediately after your last fight, and I'll ask it again now. You're holding now 2 amateur titles. You're on a 5 fight win streak. What do you think is next for you?
I mean, we'll see. Like, obviously, like when when you're all hyped up, like different things. I mean, the goal for me is to go pro. Like, I'm not being. I'm just calling it what it is, man. Like, when I started doing this, obviously it's different when you're coming in as a fan. Like, I was watching MMA. Everybody watches the UFC. It's like you being in Pee Wee football and watching the NFL, and you're like, that's what I'm gonna do. Right? And you don't realize like how big of like where all the steps are in between that, right? When you start amateur fighting, then you're like, oh, like there's levels to this shit in terms of like not just skill set, but like paying your dues. Like you do your amateur fights, then you do your amateur title fights. Then you fight on the regional scene. Then you fight on a slightly bigger regional scene. Then you hopefully get on to like Dana White's Contender Series, or you get signed by ONE FC or PFL, and like you kind of like just start working your way through. And then even when you're in the big organization, like you didn't make it yet, like it's great. That is a huge accomplishment to get there, but like then it's like you're fighting unranked guys, and then slightly better unranked guys. Then you're fighting ranked guys. Then you're fighting like higher ranked guys. Like that's like you don't. At least maybe it was just me, but like I know like because some of my wrestlers that like here like I want to fight too, and it's like they don't know what they don't know,
Mm.
and it's like, dude, there's a lot of steps there. So like I feel like as I'm progressing through, like I'm just naturally want to start taking these next steps. Like I'm confident in my skill set. I train with professionals. I mentioned it on like the last podcast. I go out to Hawaii pretty frequently and train with a lot of really good guys. Actually, I should say, shout out to Adrian Lee, who is Christian's younger brother. He's 3-0 in 1FC right now. He's about to fight Ty Rotolo, and the Rotolo brothers are big names in the sport. So that'll be Adrian's 4th pro fight and in 1FC, and then I'm going to train with Christian again in October, and I believe he is defending his 185-pound belt, but he's the 70 and 85-pound champ of 1FC. So like this is like one of the best fighters on the planet, like hands down. There's no argument about it. And they have a lot of really, really good guys in their room as well. And like local pros around here that I train with, like somebody like Alonzo Turner, like I train with him a lot, and that's one of my really close friends. So looking at like even there, like there's steps in between there. Like Alonzo's very good. He's like right on that cusp of like getting signed by a big organization. And then there's somebody who is at the pinnacle of the sport, like Christian, and I can use that as like a gauge, like where do I stack up against these guys, and like where do I feel like I need to get better. And I feel like if you're really looking at those things and you're having success in training and like at least doing the same things that they're doing, like if after sparring they're going and hitting the bag and doing this, and then you're going and doing it with them, like if you're doing everything that a professional is doing, like you just, I don't know, you kind of just naturally go into that. So I think that's my next step. We'll see. You know, obviously, like my coaches are not, they want to support me in every way. I think that they just like anybody else who really understands the sport, the better prepared you are in terms of like number of competitions going into your professional debut, the better, you know? So I think like, we'll just see. We'll just see what's next. Like that's what my head coach was saying. He was like, whoever's next, then that's whoever's next. You know what I mean? But hopefully it is a professional fight, or it's just, you know, like another amateur fight or two. But we have like my coaches have put my name in for a few different things. So we're kind of just waiting to see. So I think it's just better to just, you know, that's my goal. Like that's where I'm looking to go next. But like if it's another amateur fight next, then it's another amateur fight next. Like it is what it is, you know?
A couple more minutes here with Chris the Grit Droege. You know, the timing of this couldn't have worked out better to have you on the show because I know you have a wrestling clinic coming up on Saturday, September 6th. Can you just let people know more about kind of the details and how they can get involved?
Yeah, man, absolutely. So first of all, thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, so the wrestling clinic is, like you said, Saturday the 6th, September 6th. It's at 365 Training Center in Aurora. There's going to be 2 sessions. There's going to be I believe they said kindergarten to 7th grade, so like youth, younger middle school. That's going to be a 2-hour session. And then there's going to be a second session after that for 8th through 12th grade. And it's $30 per wrestler. And basically we're going to go over a lot of different stuff. So I try to like structure it in a way where it's like it is going to be a lot different between like the youth and the high school practice. Like obviously like the skill sets are much different, and you know you can only show so much to youth kids before they start like looking off into space. So like that's more so for like just to get kids around wrestling, and then you know play some kind of games or something at the end, just kind of make them like practice, you know what I mean? And then for the high school, that's going to be more like that's a lot of different stuff that they're probably going to see, you know, like the things that you learn in high school, you know, they're just not at the same level as college. And I'm not making this sound like I'm definitely not Cale Sanderson or David Taylor, like any guys like that. Like those guys will know way more about wrestling than me. But one thing that one of my buddies I actually was training with this weekend, he wrestled at Kent State. He was saying like the one thing that really helps is like the way that I have like an IQ on wrestling, not just I know how to do this move, that move, whatever. It's like, how can we make these things applicable to people, especially like high schoolers? And how can we like refine these things to make it so if they can pick this up, like their wrestling's going to go through the roof. So that's one of the things I think that I offer differently instead of just, I'm going to show this cool move. Like, this is cool. This is funky. This is whatever. Like, this is going to work at the collegiate level. This is probably different than something you've seen. I'm going to go around to each and every group and like refine what you're doing and make sure you're doing it correctly, not just most of the way correct. And then, yeah, like hopefully they pick up as much as they can. So, it's one of those things. It's like, obviously, like I'm getting compensated for it because there's a pay aspect, but it's not about the money. It's about like really like helping, especially like local kids, like Northeast Ohio kids, like really get a better understanding of wrestling instead of just, I show you a move and then that's it. Like, let me talk about why I was so cool at wrestling. Like that, sometimes that's how camps go. Like when I went to high school, it's like, and that's not what I like. Like, I like going in, showing these moves, really helping people understand it, and then being like, hey, like if you have questions, don't be scared to ask or nervous. So I want it to be like open forum. So that's why, like, obviously I'm biased. I'm running the clinic, but I think I run like a really, really high level, appropriate clinics for, you know, people, and it doesn't matter what age they are, because like I'm trying to do some more where it's like wrestling for BJJ, and obviously that's going to be like mostly adults. But like in that same vein, I can't show the same stuff that I would show to high school wrestlers, because most of the time high school wrestlers have a much better understanding than the average Joe that just goes to jujitsu, you know? So I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be a good time. If anybody was looking for more information, they can go to my Instagram, or at 365 Training Center, and they have everything. They have the link to it, so all the information is going to be on there.
Yeah, definitely check that out. And we have that wrestling clinic coming up here in a few days. Just if you want to shout anything else out here on the podcast, here at the back end of the show, the floor is yours, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, like, thank you to you. I'm pretty sure I said this in our last one. Like, really, like, take time to appreciate like yourself, like of how, like, this is a super cool thing you're doing, man. Like, not a lot of amateur fighters are able to come on and talk about themselves or talk about like the things that their teams are doing, or just grow the local MMA scene. So like, not like kissing your ass, but just like, this is a cool thing. That's a cool thing you do, man. So like, I appreciate you bringing me on, having me on the second time. And like, this is a really valuable resource for local fighters. So guys should take advantage of it. Um, Next thing is like my clothing sponsor. There's some super cool guys out in Hawaii. It's Loyalty, but it's spelled without like an O. So it's Lylty, and they make a lot of cool stuff. And like the guy who owns it owns a bunch of tattoo shops out there. So all the artists are the ones who like design like the fight wear, like the logos and stuff. So it's like tattoo inspired like stuff, like gis and rash guards, hats, shirts, whatever. And they just make some really cool stuff, man. And they are awesome guys. So like, just shout out to Loyalty, man. I appreciate what they do for me and keeping me geared up, and like just, supporting me when I do go out to Hawaii. Like, they're always cool about like having me come through and just hang out. And I actually got a tattoo while I was out there at one of the shops. Like, they're cool guys. So I appreciate that. And then my team, Upgraded Industries, Outcast Jiu-Jitsu. If you're in the Menor area, like, you really should come check it out. DJ's running a 1 month free. That's for anybody, like, for jiu-jitsu. So if you want to try it, come out, check it out, see why everybody's wanting to get into it. And then, like, my other coaches, Billy and Luke, and now coach, former teammate Tony Tortorisi. Now that Tony's done, like, he's really taken over a great coaching role. So he helps me out a lot, man, gives me a lot of perspective. So shout out to those guys. And then my teammates as well, like the people who help me with the striking, and the people who are just at jiu-jitsu and stuff. And then my wrestlers too, who help me get ready for my fights by like just putting me in Shark Tank grounds or letting me go through practice with them, you know what I mean, and giving me a really good look. So lot of people that I'd like to say, thank you to, but like, I don't know. It's just an awesome thing. It's cool to have the support, and it means a lot. So hopefully, like, I got a good job like representing these people.
Well, you definitely do, man. And thanks again for coming on the show for the second time. Thank you for the kind words. I wouldn't be able to do this without you guys and the fighters in the Ohio MMA scene. And I'm sure that you remember how I like to end these chats. It's by doing the OHIO chant with my guests. So, OH.
Io.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate the time. Congrats on the win at Cage Thunder 33. And I'm excited to see what you accomplish next.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate it.
That was Chris the Grit Droege, the 6-1 amateur mixed martial artist and two-time amateur MMA champion. If you're not already, make sure you're subscribed to the Forged in Ohio YouTube channel. I love seeing the growth we're having on the video side of things. But if you're like me and enjoy listening though, click that download button on whichever podcast site you're on. You can also buy Forged in Ohio merch, which is the best way to support the show. I'm really proud of what we have to offer over there, and you can find the link to the store in the description below, along with all of our social media handles. Thanks again to Chris Droege, and thanks to all of you for watching or tuning into this episode. I've been your host, Jake Murren, and this was Forged in Ohio.